everyone and welcome. This is part 4 of our October paint along. As you know, we combined week 2 and 3 because it was week 2, the underpainting was such a short, quick thing to do, so I combined them and now we're here to finish the painting. So as usual, when I walked away from the painting, I gave it a rest, came back a few hours later after lunch with fresh eyes and evaluated it for a few things. And as usual, I wrote down the things that I wanted to address. So what I want to do is talk about what I want to address, and then I'm going to go dive right in and make those finishing marks and hopefully pull it all together. So if you recall, my concept for this painting was about old friends, that the trees had character. And I started out with this idea that there would be 3 trees, and I think I ended up with 2 trees and some shrubs. That's okay. I mean, that happens. If I had fought it, I could have made this into another tree, but they wanted to be shrubs, so I listened to that and let them be shrubs. But there are some things that I need to adjust in this painting, and I will do that for the finishing. So I write these things down because, as I have talked about before, if I don't write them down, what I will tend to do is work on things that I don't need to fix because I'm not really focused. So writing them down allows me to focus on the things I really want to adjust. So what did I decide? I decided that I really wanted to play up the negative spaces in these trees. Now, you don't see them in the photo. This is where we're taking artistic license. In the photo, they're very solid, and that's not so interesting. I mean, it's not an interesting photo, and it's certainly not going to be an interesting painting. So in order for me to have some interesting negative spaces, I want to lower the sky a little bit and make these distant trees a little less important. Even though the blue color pushes them back, they're still kind of tall. So I want to lower the sky and play with the negative spaces with the sky peeking through the tree a little bit more. I need to add to the foliage, but I don't want to get carried away. I've been working on another tree painting, and I ended up with way too many leaves. I started making little leaf marks, and before I knew it, I had so many leaves that it was too busy. So right now it's not too busy. I just need to add a little bit more but not get carried away. And then of course I need to develop the foreground. So in the photograph it was a mowed yard. Not so interesting to have manicured grasses. I am all about the wild grasses. In this same area, down a little ways, there was some wonderful mauve-y pink grasses. It was early autumn, and I remember this. So I'm going to substitute the mowed manicured lawn for a little bit wild and free grasses. I don't want to go too crazy with the pink because then I'm going to have too many colors going on. So I want to control that, probably make some more yellowy with a touch of pink. That will probably be my goal for the grasses. So there we have it. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to address. I did feel that I wanted to pull out a couple of different pastels. I don't know if you can zoom in on these. That I didn't have in my palette. I wanted to have more of a dull yellowy green, and I might add just a touch more violet. Because remember, we started with a red violet on the tone paper, so I want to reintroduce a little bit more purple. So I will, maybe I'll use those, maybe not, but I just pulled them out just in case. Alright, so the first thing let's do is lower that horizon. So I'm going to take my pale yellow, and I'm going to just simply give these trees a haircut. Now, it's perfectly fine to go right over them. Because they're going to have soft edges in the distance, so I'm just taking that sky color and going right over the blue and carving into the trees to get them lower. Now, if that's low enough, let's make it have a more interesting silhouette. And I'm going to take my finger and just slightly soften those edges, really to push them back. Now, since I gave it a haircut over there, I need to come in and give it a haircut in the middle, but that's a little bit too light. I'm going to go with my slightly darker yellow, because remember, these are sky holes, so they're going to be a little bit darker because of the light being filtered through the trees. I'm going to take, since I gave a haircut in this area, I'm going to play with those negative spaces in the tree. Now I've got to really change the shape of this tree, because when I'm putting in these sky holes, all of a sudden it's become kind of a lollipop tree, so I want to make sure I adjust that. Then I'm going to come over to the left and trim these trees on the left hand side. And again, soften it with my finger so they go back. Alright, so I came over here and I started to open it up with some of the sky color, and it's starting to feel a little spotty, okay? But I have to put these sky holes in before I can take them out. Put them in and then take them out. So what we have to do now is number 2, I want to add to the foliage. So I'm going to add to the foliage, and then I'm going to tend to these sky holes just a little bit more. So let's see if we can use some of these colors that I thought I might need. And yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. It's kind of a yellow green, but has a touch more orange to it. It's a really good color to have on hand, and you can see how small this is, which means I've used it quite a bit, and it also means probably time to replace it. I don't think this color is in my set. You have to be limited to just 60 pastels. I couldn't put it all in, but this is a great color to have on hand. What would I do if I needed to replace it and I had no idea what number it was or even what pastel brand it is? I simply look at it and say, what color is it? Well, it's green, but it's kind of a yellowy orangey green. Okay, well, is it hard or soft? It's soft. Is it dark or light or somewhere in between? And then I'd say it's kind of a middle dark value. Okay, is it dull or is it bright and intense? Well, it's definitely dull. So when I have all the answers to those questions, I can then go online and look at the open stock and find something that looks similar. Sometimes I'll order more than one just so that I can, they don't always look the same online as they do in person. So sometimes you need a few extra. So what I've done while I've been talking is I've taken that pastel and kind of gone over these sky holes just to soften them a little bit so that they're not just screaming for attention. They're there, but yet they are not the most important thing in the painting. I'll just kind of reinforce some of these bushes. What was the other color? Oh yes, it was a little violet. Let's see if we put a haze of violet up in the trees. Sometimes it's really nice, if you want interesting color, to look and see what you use for your underpainting or the tone of the paper, and bring that back into the painting. So bring what's underneath back out on top, which is what I'm doing with the violet. Now as I was just doing that, I realized that I've got something heavy going on with these tree trunks. So I'm reinforcing the dark of them just a little bit more, and over here as well. And now I need to come in and carve that a little bit more with the sky color. Fix that just a little bit. Alright, so what was next on the list? Oh yeah, this tree is a little bit too much of a lollipop type shape. So how am I going to adjust it? So see what I'm talking about? It's kind of like this round. How can I fix that? I could have some foliage coming forward. I could maybe fix this area and have the tree fatter right here. So I'm going to spray it with a little workable fixative because, again, we're working on unsanded paper, so I'm starting to fill the tooth. So I'm going to let that dry and I'll come back to it and just change the shape of that tree slightly. Alright, let's work on the ground here just a little bit. Remember I wanted some of those mauvey grasses? I already have some great dirt color. Last week I put in that nice salmon color. We've got the purple, we've got some greens. Now let's go ahead and add some of those mauve grasses. So I have two different grayed down violets that I'm using. But remember what I said is I don't want it to be all purple or all mauve. So I'm going to reintroduce some of the yellows. This is a nice yellow ochre. Remember what happens as we go down to the immediate foreground? It's going to get darker. So I'm going to actually reuse the underpainting darker brown that I used, and then come back on top of it with that middle value brown. So basically I'm working with some of those underpainting colors to paint some of these grasses. I am also trying to keep this pathway kind of going through. I really like that light, the light coming through. Let's use this. This is the underpainting yellow that we use, the block-in yellow. When you do your block-ins or your underpaintings and this idea of one color and 4 values, don't put them away. You keep them out because you're going to use them again, or you can use them again. And when you use them again, that allows you to reintroduce the colors, and that leads to greater color harmony. Whenever you can reuse a color rather than picking out a new one from your box, you're going to have better color harmony in your painting. So I really want this light area to stand out and say we're losing it. What can we do? We can't really make it much lighter without it getting washed out, but we can darken what surrounds it. So I'm going to add a little bit of dark back in here. When I darken what surrounds it, it allows the light to shine a little bit more. Go a little bit more with the mauve. Let's throw in some of that purple that we put in the tree. What does that do? It allows the tree to have a relationship with the grass. And I think now this is dry, so I'm going to go ahead and, what did I want to do? I wanted to kind of change the shape of this tree. Pull it over just a little bit more. And let's get that one that's almost gone. And now I can actually start to make a few leaf marks. So I'm pressing harder, I'm shouting with the pastel. When I press hard, I shout. And I'm just making just a few leaf type marks. You've got to look at the type of tree you're painting, because that's going to tell you the type of leaf marks to make. If it's a palm frond, or if it's... And this is where I got carried away on the painting that I was working on. I just started making leaf marks, and I was having so much fun making leaf marks that I didn't stop. And it got too busy, too fussy, too much going on. So I'm going to stop with the leaf marks. I can always go back after I step back and evaluate the painting a little bit more. I might add back some leaves, take some away, add some in. Remember, it's a process. I'm just going to reinforce the yellow in the sky. And I think now I'll use that grass box. And again, don't want to get too carried away with grass marks, but I think just having a few grass marks, blades of grass, will give the viewer the information they need to complete the scene. So if you put in a few, your eye will see the whole and say, oh, okay, that's what that is. That's a grassy foreground. Not a mowed lawn, but grassy, unmanicured, wild and free. And again, this is another thing where we can certainly get carried away and get going with too many details. I think I'm going to take one of the get the darker NuPastel and come in and reinforce some of those tiny twigs that we have at the edges of the tree. Just a few. Again, what I recommend when you are doing this is pause the video whenever you need to so that you can get caught up. And when you pause the video and when you're getting caught up, you have the ability to slow down and step back and make important observations as to what's going on in your painting. That's something that we all need to do, and when I'm doing these demos, I don't step back the way I do when I'm painting not on camera. Alright, I think one other thing that I'm going to do, and we're just about done, is come in here and just reinforce some of the blue in the background. Just a hair, not too much, especially around the bushes. Remember we made these bushes and they're kind of lost, but if I paint what's behind them, then they will stand out just a little bit more. And why not add just a touch more blue down here in the bottom. I think this is not standing out more, so what's this idea that simultaneous contrast? If it's not standing out, I can make it lighter, but what else can I do? I can make what surrounds it darker. So if I darken what's behind it, that allows the shape itself to stand out a little bit more. And that does the trick. Oh, broke it. Now I have to get online and order another one because that's probably the end of that guy. And by the way, if I find a good one, I'll certainly share it with you. So there we have it. That is the finish. I don't know, I might do a couple more things, but for the most part, we're finished. I hope you've enjoyed this paint along these trees, and have fun, and let's paint.